Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's joined. We're going to start off, inshallah, with Quran. Dania and Yusuf are going to start, inshallah. And then after Quran, we'll do Hadith Kisa by Reza, and then we'll have a few words by some family members. So, salawat from everyone. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil khair.
Move over for Dania to do it. Move over so Dania can do it.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
You can take off your mask to recite.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Loud over here.
أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يطلب اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم. Yes, Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab sayasla naran dhata lahab wa imra'atuhu hammalatal hatab fi jidha hablum min masad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If everyone can please recite a Surah Fatiha for Saltanat Begum bint Murtaza Hussain. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Now, Reza Rizvi will recite the Hadith Kisa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I offer my condolences on the passing away of Nani to the entire family, including my mother, Jafarma, Bade Auntie, Bakharma, Mirajma, Minaz Auntie, and Jawadma. We also remember Shanaz Auntie tonight. May Allah grant both of them a high status in Jannah. Hadith Kisa. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. An Fatimatu Zahra alayha salam. بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له إذا بك بالله يا باته من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ له كأنه البدر في ليلة في تمامه في كماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال سلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وخاتا تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبو الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب ولوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ وقال وعليك السلام يا ابنتي ويا بدعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميع تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيته وخاصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، ويؤلمهم ما يؤلمني، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم، ويوزهني ما يوزهنهم. أنا هرب لمن هاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فجل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء خمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال أمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الليل ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله تعالى قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي لا يخرج السلام ويخصك بتحية والإكرام ويكولك وعزتي وجلالي ما خلقت إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم. وقد أزلني أن أدخل معكم فهل تزلني يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وهي الله. إنه نعم قد آذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا ونزلت عليهم من رحمة وهفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلا أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذ الله فزنا وشيعتنا ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما ولا طالب حاجة إلا وكذا الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا الله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Reza. Really appreciate that. If you want to share a few words about Dadi, and then we'll have like anyone else who wants to speak about her, kind of share her memories with everyone who's joined, inshallah.
Then I offered my condolences at the end, so you guys
Sure.
can continue.
No problem. Thank you. I'll pass it off to, I guess, Ali. Ali wanted to say a few things. Bismillah, Ali, go ahead. Ali, if you want to speak, you can speak now. You just need to unmute your mic. I guess while we're waiting for Ali, I'll say a few things. You know, she was my dadi, so my father's mom. And when I was born, we spent a lot of time before moving to the US with Dadi in Golaganj in Lucknow. And I have very faint memories of her and also of her mother. I used to call her Babo. Babo was a very strong person. I think maybe that's where Dadi got her strength from. And, you know, with Dadi, you know, the feeling that I always got from her was her deep connection to her faith, especially her love for the Ahlul Bayt. And you know, I've been reflecting on her last few days, and you know, what's the things kind of that conspired. We were all in ziyarat, many of us, many of her children, her grandchildren, and while we were there, her health started to deteriorate, and you know, Mirat Chachu, Jawad Chachu were heading that way, and Zainab worked very hard to make sure Baba, my father, had a chance to join them as well. And you know, around her when she passed away, she had, alhamdulillah, all her sons, and she passed away around the same time that Baneen passed away. And we know that the title of Baneen is very special because she was the father of sons. Sons, not just sons, but sons that, you know, represented all the great things we would want our sons to have. Loyalty, loyalty to Allah, to Haqq, to Ahlul Bayt, and being unwavering. And for her to pass away on, you know, the same night as Baneen with her 4 sons, maybe that's a coincidence, but maybe it's also a dua from Baneen for her, for all the majalis that she's done for Imam Hussein, for all the majalis she's done for the Shuhada Karbala, for her to have her sons with her when she's passing away and have them be with her when she's being buried in the ground. May Allah make it easy for her, inshallah. And I ask you all to remember her, and if you can recite Salat al-Washid for her. This must not be easy for her sons. I can't imagine, no matter how long my mom would live, you know, watching her pass. So with that, I'll pass it off to Ali if you're ready. Bismillah, go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, condolences to all her kids, daughters and sons, starting with Jafar Ma, Miraj Ma, Jawad Ma, Bakr Ma, my mom, me, Baji auntie, Manaz auntie. And on this occasion, like, it's so sad to just remember that Shanaz auntie actually is not here with us. for me, that was probably more shocking than passing away of a Nani, because it was just so unexpected. And it was a good thing that, I don't know, she didn't know about it. I don't know what would have happened if she knew about it. So in terms of what I remember about mommy, I grew up with her, so I have so many memories of her, or spending time with her, that I don't know which memories to share, because every single one of them is so so amazing and full of love and warmth, that I don't know which one to pick and share. But I'll just say this, that she had such a good sense of raising kids. I mean, I just think about how I see everyone raising kids nowadays, people who are married and they're raising kids, and they're raising kids in such a different environment where there's so many facilities, there's uh, so much help you can get from technology, this, that, you name it. You know, it's a modern era now, but she raised 8 kids in that time when, you know, nothing was available. And she literally, my Ammi used to tell me, she used to like sew everyone's clothes herself, and all the 8 kids. It's amazing. It's unimaginable. Like, I couldn't picture anyone doing that in this day and age. And then on top of it, she imparted such good sense. She was someone who had so much, um, you know, wisdom, and that wisdom went a long way. And you can tell by looking at her kids and her grandkids that the wisdom that she passed on, it is still there in her grandkids, it's there in her kids, and that's the key thing. And along with that, she imparted iman and faith, and she was very strong in iman and aqidah, and that's probably the most important thing of all, that she was a muhibbat ibad, and she was someone I woke up to when I was a kid, reciting Quran early in the morning at 6. So my memory of her from Golaganj was that when I was like maybe 10, 11 years old, and we would be staying at Golaganj, I would wake up in the morning and I would hear her reciting Quran, tilawat Quran, at 6 in the morning, religiously. Like, it was like an alarm clock. It was amazing. So she had so much structure in her life, and she had so much wisdom, and and she was so ahead of her times. She basically raised these 8 kids, and she said to them, she basically, at times I felt, I always tell Emil, you know what, she was born at a time when she wasn't formally educated. She didn't go to college, but she had such a good sense that she could advise people who are in this day and age getting a formal education, and she had a better sense than them. So it just goes to show how wisdom is not really attained through education alone. So some people are born with it, and she was definitely born with it. And it's qualities like that that make you miss a person even more. So everyone loves their kids, everyone raises a good family with good intentions, but when someone is that brainy, someone who's that intelligent, someone who has that great intellect, such love, care, warmth, it just makes that person seem more special than everybody else. And that's who she was. And so every time I was with her, just her presence alone was just heartwarming. Even her bed sheets, her clothing just smelled of her. I used to tell her, Mommy, you have like a certain smell to you, like a perfume. It's not a cologne, it's not a fragrance, but it's just like, it smells like you, and it smells so good. So she had that smell to her that I'm definitely gonna miss every time I go to Lucknow now. And she was the core of the family, and she held this family together so well. And one more thing I want to add is that she always preached this to her kids. I've never seen anyone do this so well. She always told her kids, including us, I don't want you guys to be separated. I raised you guys with so much love and care. I don't want you guys to grow apart, be torn apart by time, by physicality, by location, et cetera, et cetera. I want you guys to be together no matter what. And that's also very poignant in that she stood out in what she believed in. I guess I guess, there's so much to share about her that I can go on and on, but needless to say that we'll all miss her greatly and immensely, and then I don't think anyone can replace her. May Allah give her maghfirat and she find her rightful place in Jannah, being a mu'minah that she was.
Thank you, Ali. Really appreciate you sharing those stories. And it's a memory that we can remember through you, and inshallah continue to reflect on her life. And you made a really good point about how she didn't want her children to get separated. Maybe it was her du'as of keeping her children together that
Absolutely. Yeah.
most of her children are in New Jersey now.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
of them,
Yeah,
30
mashallah.
minutes of each other. So it's the power of a mother's dua, right?
Exactly.
And I also wanted to give my condolences and Porsa to Shanaz Pupu, who are very much missing. Whenever I used to be in Lucknow, spending time with her was a very, very special thing to all of us. I used to remember, walking up those stairs to
I know, right? Yeah.
I used to wonder, like, how does she do it?
Yeah.
But subhanallah, God bless her. Hopefully she's with her mother and her mother's with her daughter, and they're getting that time together, inshallah. Also my condolences and porsa to Bajia Pupu, and I see a lot of Dadi and Bajia Pupu,
Yes.
especially with her cooking. Whenever she used to make food, used to remind me of Dadi, and
With all her home skills, yes. Yeah.
and Bajia Pupu is also very much, she has a lot of discipline in her life. Again, those are some things she gets from Dadi, and I think she also gets that from Dada.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and my poor son condolences I give to Bari Pupu as well. Bari Pupu looks so much like Dadi when I see her. I feel like it's like getting to do ziyarat of Dadi whenever I see Bari Pupu in the US. And the way Bari Pupu has raised you guys as well is kind of reminds me of Dadi and her importance to these things. And my condolences in Borsa to Minaz Pupu as well. She had a very difficult past few years missing Bilal Pupa. He passed away at a very young age. We all miss him very much. And Minaz Pupu, inshallah, we get to see you and the rest of your family, inshallah, soon. I wish, Shanaz Pupu's kids and Menas Pupu's kids, we all had some more time to spend with them, but unfortunately distance keeps us separated. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Feel free to say something before I pass it off to here.
Yeah, I can say something real quick, Zanpai, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Assalamu everyone.
Assalam.
I'm Abu Talib. I'm Fatima's husband. I've never met Dadi in person. I never had the honor, but I spoke with her many times on FaceTime and over the phone. The one thing I can really remember about her is that she would never let us go without giving countless duas to Fatima and I. That's pretty much the person I grew fond of and I got to know. I think whenever I think about her, I just remember that she would just give us countless duas, and she would always have a smile on her face. And when we were on FaceTime with the family over the past few days, Fatima would show me pictures and videos of when she went to visit her, and she was always so happy to be with their grandchildren and to be surrounded by family. And I think that's the biggest blessing that anyone can have. And it's the hardest thing when you lose a mother or a grandmother, just having that much happiness being in their presence. I want to give my condolences to the family. I can't imagine how hard it is to lose a mother, to lose a grandmother. And I also want to mention, it's inspiring to see how much her children cared for her. It speaks to the type of person she was, on how she would raise her children. Anytime she needed anything, everyone would jump to help her, whether she needed something to be sent to India, if she wanted someone to visit her. When her health started to decline at the end, I remember we were in Iraq and everyone pretty much just jumped up to go see her and tried to alter their plans to be able to see her and do khidmat to her any way they could. And seeing that, I pray that we can all become like that. We can all do khidmat to our parents, give them and be the people that they raised. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Budad. With that, salawat. Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Is it here? Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
First, I would like to offer my deepest condolences to the family of Marhuma Sultan Begum. میری اور میرے خانوادے کی وقفیت جان پہچان مرحومہ سے لکھنؤ سے ہے، اور مرحومہ جو ہیں وہ میری ساس کی والدہ ہیں. اور جیسا کہ ہمیں بزرگ کہتے ہیں اور جیسے کہ کہا جاتا ہے کہ اگر کسی مومن یا مومنہ کی سیرت کو دیکھنا ہو تو اس کی اولادوں کی تربیت میں دیکھو. اس کی اولادوں کی تربیت میں تمہیں اس کی سیرت جھلکتی نظر آئے گی. اور یہ سیرت ان کی مجھے سب سے زیادہ اپنی ساس میں دکھی، جن کو کہ میں تقریباً 18-20 سال سے جانتا ہوں، جنہوں نے اس ملک میں رہ کر اپنی ماں کی میراث کو زندہ رکھا، اور ان کے باقی اولادوں کو جن کو میں جانتا ہوں، ان سب میں ان کی سیرت جھلکتی نظر آتی ہے. مرحومہ ایک متقی، پرہیزگار اور اہل بیت کی محبین تھیں، اور اللہ ان کی روح کو جنت میں اعلیٰ مقام عطا کرے. اس سے پہلے کہ مرثیے کے پروگرام کا آغاز ہو، میں آپ سب سے گزارش کروں گا کہ آپ لوگ ایک بار سورہ فاتحہ اور 3 بار سورہ حمد کی تلاوت کر کے مرحومہ سلطنت بیگم ابن مرتضی حسین کی روح کو بخش دیں.
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
اس پروگرام کا آغاز ایک میں چھوٹی سی قطع سے کرنا چاہوں گا. ایک صلوات بھیج دیں. ایک مچلتی ہوئی تلوار ابھی باقی ہے. ایک مچلتی ہوئی تلوار ابھی باقی ہے انتقام میں شہ ابرار ابھی باقی ہے مرحبے فکر جو رکھتے ہیں یہ کہہ دو ان سے مرحبے فکر جو رکھتے ہیں یہ کہہ دو ان سے آخری حیدر کرار ابھی باقی ہے ایک مچلتی ہوئی صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد. حضرت عباس کی شہادت کے مرثی کے چند بول پیش نظر ہیں. پیش خدمت ہے آپ کے سورۃ الفاتحہ. جب ابن بوتراب بروے زمیں گرا جب ابن بوتراب بروے زمیں گرا بے دست ہو کے خاک پا وہ میں جبیں گرا اور ہاتھ ایک طرف علم شاہ کہیں گرا چلائیں فاطمہ کے میرا نازنی گرا کٹتا ہے کوئی دم میں سر اس نوجوان کا مٹتا ہے اب نشان علی کے نشان کا مٹتا ہے اب نشان علی کے نشان کا سنتے ہی اس صدا کو شہنشاہ بحر و بر دوڑے گرے اٹھے نا سنبھالا گیا جگر کانپے جو پاؤں تھام لیا بازوے پسر چلاتے تھے کہو علی اکبر چلے کدھر चिल्लाते थे कहो अली अकबर चले किधर मजमा हटाओ फौजे सितम का तराई से बेटा मिला दो जल्द मुझे मेरे भाई से बेटा मिला दो जल्द मुझे मेरे भाई से अकबर करीब लाश जो लाए हुसैन को अब्बास जां बलब नजर आए हुसैन को तड़पा वो शेर सुन के सदाए हुसैन को अकबर ने हाथ उठाए दिखाए हुसैन को अकबर ने हाथ उठा के दिखाए हुसैन को दो को है गम के दिल पजो एक बार गिर पड़े पहलू में लाश की शह अबरार गिर पड़े पहलू में लाश की शह अबरार गिर पड़े एक बार गश से चौंके जो अब्बास ज़ीवकार और जाकनी में आँखों को खोला बहाल ज़ार पूछा किधर हो ऐ मेरे आकाए नामदार हजरत लिपट के भाई से बोले के मैंने सार हजरत लिपट के भाई से बोले के मैंने सार सदमे में जाकनी के पुजू इस जुदाई के भाई का दाग पूछे कोई दिल के भाई से भाई का दाग पूछे कोई दिल से भाई के भाई तुम्हारी बाली सकीना जिगर फिगार बच्चों से कह रही है बचश्मोर अश्क बार एक लहज़ा और सब्र करो तुम पा मैंने सार देखो के जां बलब है میرا بھائی شیر خوار دیکھو کہ جاب لب ہے میرا بھائی شیر خوار پیاسی ہوں میں بھی 3 دن اور 3 رات سے اب پانی لاتے ہویں گے پر ہاتھ سے اب پانی لاتے ہویں گے پر ہاتھ سے ہیں کچھ وصیتیں میری اس وقت یا امام ان میں سے ایک یہ ہے تصدق ہو جب غلام ساحل سے لاش اٹھ کے نہ جائے سوئے قیام جس جا پڑا ہوں قبر کا بھی ہو وہی مقام جس جا پڑا ہوں قبر کا بھی ہو وہاں مقام سر کے نخان زاد امام دلیر کا مسکن رہے ترائی میں حیدر کے شیر کا مسکن رہے ترائی میں حیدر کے شیر کا اور دوسری یہ عرض ہے اے شاہ نیک کو شہزادیاں قناتوں سے نہ نکلیں خوشادہ منہ دیکھے نہ کہ بال سکینہ میرا لہو اور ایک آخری یہ ہے دل کی آرزو آئے لحد میں خوشبوئے امام زمان مجھے بخشے حضور اپنی ابا کا کفن مجھے بخشے حضور اپنی ابا کا کفن مجھے سن کر یہ حال دل پہ لگا طور ایک غام سن کر یہ حال دل پہ لگا اور تیر غام روئے لہو کے اشکوں سے عباس سے ذی و حشم اتنا کہا کہ رہ گئے شرمندہ اس سے ہم پہنچاتے مشق ہاتھ نہ ہوتے اگر قلم پہنچاتے مشق ہاتھ نہ ہوتے اگر قلم کچھ بس چلا اجل سے نہ اس بے قصور کا مجبور ہو گیا یہ بہشتی حضور کا مجبور ہو گیا یہ بہشتی حضور کا سر پیٹ کے کہا یہ کہنے لگے شاید بحر و بر عباس ٹکڑے کرتے ہو کیوں بھائی کا جگر اچھا نہ لاش اٹھائیں گے یہاں سے یہ نوحگر تربت بنے گی آپ کی بے شوبھا نہر پر تربت بنے گی آپ کی بے شوبھا نہر پر سچ ہے کہ بحر نہر ترائی ضرور ہے بھائی مگر تمہاری لحد ہم سے دور ہے بھائی مگر لحد بھائی مگر تمہاری لحد ہم سے دور ہے یہ سن کے پائے شے کی جانب جھکایا سر کانپے لہو بھری ہوئی آنکھوں کو کھول کر تپ کے مشاں سے خون کے قطرے ادھر ادھر کس یاس سے حسین پہ کی آخری نظر کس یاس سے حسین پہ کی آخری نظر من کا جری کا ڈھل گیا بھائی کے سامنے بھائی کا داؤں نکل گیا بھائی کے سامنے بھائی کا دم نکل گیا بھائی کے سامنے جب ابن بوت راب صلوات
صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
میں گزارش کروں گا آپ سب سے कि एक बार सूरह हमद और 3 बार सूरह इखलास की तिलावत करके मरहुमा सल्तनत बेगम बिनते मुर्तज़ा हुसैन की रूह बख्श दें।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Rahman. Thank you, Zahir Bhai, really appreciate it. And now we'll have Maulana Sayyid Hassan Ali Rizvi, who is also amongst the family of Sultanat Begum's extended family, and we're very grateful and honored to have him reciting the Majlis tonight in her memory. Bismillah, Sayyid.
Let's start again with a Surah Fatiha for the soul of Marhuma Saltanat Begum bint Murtaza Hussain. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا والنبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع نفوسنا والطبيب ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين المكرمين الخيرين الفاضلين السيدين الصادقين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to first start off by extending our condolences on behalf of our family to all of you as we commemorate the death anniversary of Ummul Baneen alayhi salam, and also as we commemorate and have this Esaal Sawab Majlis for Marhuma Saltanat Begum binte Murtaza Hussain. Now, it's unfortunate for myself that I didn't have the opportunity to meet her, but just judging by and hearing all of the different stories and comments and praise and faza'il that all the family members are mentioning, it's very clear that she's had a tremendous effect on everyone around her. And it's very fitting that we are commemorating the wafat of Baneen. And as people have mentioned before, when we talk about Baneen, the major concept that comes to our mind is the concept of tarbiyah. And specifically tarbiyah and training and disciplining and child upbringing, in terms of the fact that when we think about wafa or wafadari, right, being loyal and having that loyalty to Allah, to Islam, and to the Ahlul Bayt, of course, our minds always jump to Abu Fadl al-Abbas. And when we see a personality like his, then immediately we call into question, how is it that someone is able to raise a child like Abbas? And every parent is thinking to themselves, how can I be a parent like Baneen? What exactly did she do in her life where she was able to help foster and nurture and grow somebody like Abu Fadl Abbas, somebody who is amongst all the shuhada in Karbala is probably one of the most beloved. So there's, I think, 3 phases or 3 time periods that we could probably look at and get an understanding of exactly what were the main sort of points in Baneen's life that you and I can take examples from and start to implement it. Now, whether your mothers or the fathers who are listening, or as children, or as any husband or wife or spouse, or in any sort of relationship, the major quality, if we're going to summarize it right at the beginning, the major quality that made her successful in her own spiritual growth, and then by extension in her ability to raise all of her children in such a strong manner, can be summarized in tazkiyatun nafs, right? In self-building. But it's not the normal type of self-building. It's not the normal type of self-purification that you and I think about. She was able to engage in the highest level of tazkiyah, the highest level of purifying oneself. And in Irfan, they talk about when you reach that highest level, you have reached fana, annihilation, and your ego, your nafs, is completely destroyed. There is no trace of I, of ana, of me, of man. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. Your whole wujud, your whole being is just there now to serve Allah and His Ahlul Bayt. That's it. And you can see the effects and those characteristics playing out throughout her life in those 3 periods I talked about. One is we're going to look at her, when she, before Karbala, meaning when she first got married to Amir al-Mu'mineen, alayhi salam. Then we'll look at the effects of her tarbiyah in the Battle of Karbala with her children. And then finally, we'll look at the sort of last point of remembrance that we have of her is when the caravan of the Ahlul Bayt was, after Karbala, had left Sham and made it back to Medina. And in all these different stages and periods, we'll see those qualities of her being able to completely annihilate and destroy her ego. And then hopefully, inshallah, we can explain a little bit more each of these stages and some of the qualities there. And along the way, we'll understand what we can do in our lives to hopefully spiritually grow and improve. Please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let's start off with the beginning, or at least how we look at the beginning of her life. After the shahadat of Bibi Fatima alayha salam, now Imam Ali, most of us are familiar with the famous story. He was looking for a wife, right? Another wife. And when he did this, he had in mind a goal already. He went to his cousin Aqil, who was known, Aqil was known, he had this skill or trait or knowledge of Arab genealogy. Like ilm al-nasab, sometimes it's called. So he knew people's ancestries, and when you understand different tribal backgrounds, then you can understand certain spiritual traits. So when Imam Ali alayhi salam comes to Aqil and says, I want to have a child that is able to have this quality of wafadari, right? I want a child that has this shuja'a and bravery. I want a child to have this strength and courage. What tribe should I look at? Who should I marry so that I can have children like this? And of course, Aqil says you have to go to the tribe of Bani Kilab. And there's a woman from amongst Bani Kilab. If you marry her, the children that will be produced from that lineage, from this wife that you'll marry, will be the strongest, most courageous, most honorable individuals. And this is exactly what happens. So he then marries Baneen, and they have famously 4 sons: Ja'far, Abdullah, Uthman, and of course, Abbas. What's interesting is that we know her as Baneen, right? Literally meaning the mother of her sons, or the mother of sons. And of course, her children. Most people don't know that, Ummul Baneen is a title. It's actually not her name. Her name is actually Fatima. Her name was Fatima Hizam. So when she was married to Amir al-Mu'mineen initially, now imagine, they are, the children of the household, the children of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima, right? So we're talking about Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, still in the household. The memory of their mother, Bibi Fatima, is still fresh in their minds. So Baneen on her own, she goes to Amir al-Mu'mineen and says, because at this point, initially, Amir al-Mu'mineen was calling her Fatima, because that was her name. He was addressing her as such. Baneen on her own comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen and says, Mawla, it's better if you don't refer to me as Fatima. Call me something else. Give me a different title. He says, because I know that every time you say the name Fatima, I can see the hearts of the children, break a little bit. I can see the heart of Hussein, the heart of Hassan, the heart of Kulthum and Zainab. Whenever they hear the name of their mother, I know that they feel pain in their hearts, and that's not something I want to happen. So don't refer to me as Fatima anymore. Don't refer to me by my name. Refer to me as something else. And this is why none of us, no Shia ever refers to her as Fatima now. That same practice in Sunnat has continued on, and we refer to her as Baneen. And it's become so widespread that most of us, as I said, we don't even know that her name was actually Fatima. So even at this stage early in her life, you can see that her concern, most people, they get offended if you mispronounce somebody's name or you misspell somebody's name. Her concern was not about herself. Her immediate concern was about and again, not even her own children. It's the children of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima. And when she saw that her name was causing them discomfort and heartache, she said, I don't want that to happen. So immediately, this is, again, a part of the destruction of the ego, where she says, and she, like any person, she has the right to be called by her name. But because the haqq and huquq and rights of others come before her own, the feelings and emotions of others she puts before her own, she decides to lower herself, perform isar, and sacrifice her rights so that she can take care of other individuals, so that she can make even children, feel at ease. This was her love and devotion for the Ahlul Bayt, and this is one of the ways that she was able to destroy her ego. In something as simple as saying, don't refer to me by my name, because it bothers other individuals. Now, again, a lesson for us for that too. For parents, I think it's simple. The key to tarbiyah is very simple. It's simple to say, it's very hard to accomplish. The key to tarbiyah is the same thing. If you want to raise children who are able to destroy their egos, you and I have to do that first. If you don't want a child who's nafsani, who's egotistical and arrogant, if you want a child who's loyal to Islam, to Allah, to the Ahlul Bayt, then you have to lead by example first. Have you been able to show your child that, yes, I destroy my ego. I am loyal to Allah. I am loyal to the Ahlul Bayt. Their needs, the needs of the Ahlul Bayt come before mine. The gham of the Ahlul Bayt comes before mine. The happiness of the Ahlul Bayt comes before mine. Especially in that early 0 to 7 phase, right? That we so famously say in the hadith, that this is the observational phase where children are the masters. They will see every single action, every little action. They are watching and recording what parents are doing. And our ulama say that this is the taqleedi phase of parenting, that a child is looking at the parent and saying, I'm doing taqleed to you, exactly what you do. Now, you might tell your child, read Quran, read namaz, wear proper hijab, whatever, all these things. If you don't act it, then they're not going to do it. It's very clear. If you try to tell them, don't be so materialistic, who cares if you get more toys, these kind of things. If they see you materialistic, then your words won't have any meaning. So the first sort of lesson for us as parents and grandparents as well, anybody who has this sort of high level authority position and they're trying to advise others who are, in a lower situation than them, in a lower hierarchical situation, is that if I want them to destroy their ego, I have to do it first. I have to lead by example. And it is the most difficult thing. In one hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, he says that out of all the different struggles and jihads that my Shia will go through, the most difficult one will be jihadun nafs, meaning fighting our ego, fighting our desires. It's very tough to do. I mean, even for me, for example, I get very sort of uneasy when I see a mess or when something spills. I don't like it at all. But I know, obviously, that from all these principles, look, my children, they're supposed to be the masters. I know from, empirical evidence, in child developmental psychology, that children learn through play. They need to make messes so that they can learn. That's how they'll also learn how to clean up. So even though I don't like when messes, happen, and I'm not the one who cleans it up anyway, but I just don't like the sight of a mess. But I have to figure out, okay, well, I may not like it, but I know that it's beneficial for my children. Or I may not like something, but it's beneficial for my family. My job then in destroying my ego and lowering my ego is to put my own desires aside and put my families first, put others first. It starts with your family, and then of course you can even branch out to extended family, community, etc. So this is one way we see Baneen right in the beginning of when we examine her life before Karbala, even in the fact that she does not want to break the hearts of the children of Ali and Fatima. She says, don't call me Fatima, refer to me as Baneen. So this is our first lesson. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now we can look at the effects of this sort of tarbiyah as we go on to the second phase, as we go towards Karbala. Now, she had 4 children there, right? 4 sons, Ja'far, Uthman, Abdullah, and of course, Abu Fadl al-Abbas. All of them gave their lives for Imam Hussein and Islam. But there's something very specific about Abbas, Hazrat Abbas, that all of us, we notice, right? It's something very special about his personality. And when we see his loyalty, his wafadari, then we're thinking, what exactly is going on in his life, happened in his life? How did he get raised in a way where he's able to perform these miraculous sort of actions in Karbala, fighting off all of these soldiers? When he goes and he is able to try and attempt to get water from Furat and bring it back for the children without ever taking a drop for himself. Who would do something like this? Guaranteed, if you and I were in that same position, if we were to reach the water, we would say, look, I could be a much better fighter if I just take a small sip and I go back. What's the big deal? It's not haram. And in fact, might even say, it might be wajib for me because I'm about to die. I need a little bit of water. But his ego was destroyed. He was able to follow in his mother's footstep and destroy his ego as well. And the greatest example of that, besides the fact that he was able to toss away that water when he thought of the thirst of Imam Hussein and the children, is even when he got the permission initially to go out and get the water, right? According to some narrations in history. So let's think back. Imam Ali asks his cousin Aqil for a strong, courageous tribe. He gets pointed out to Baneen, and the children like Abbas are born from that marriage. Abbas is trained from birth by Baneen that, look, you see this, you see your brother Hussein, he is your Mawla, he is your master. You are to never let him out of your sight. You are his protector. Every single thing in your life should be dedicated to him. So from the beginning, he was known as obviously a great warrior. He was feared on the battlefield, right, when the enemies would see him. But his main concern always was Imam Hussein. So every iota, every fiber of his being, anytime he would go out in battle, everything would be to make sure his Mawla Hussein, his brother Hussein, was being protected and that no harm would come to them. In the same way, his mother didn't want Imam Hussein to feel any sort of sadness in his heart by hearing the name Fatima. You see, Abu Fadl Abbas is following the tarbiyah of his mother and saying, I don't want any harm to come to my Mawla, my brother Hussein as well. But think about this. He's being raised as the strong, courageous warrior, saying, look, you need to, your sword, your spear, your horse, your armor, your shield, everything that we are training you for is so that you can go and protect and defend your Mawla Hussein. Now, imagine, like you and I have been raised from birth with one principal goal in mind, one idea, that, Sometimes people are saying, when they're young, oh, you have to go up to be a doctor, or you have to go up to be a CEO, or you have to go up to be an inventor, or you have to win the Nobel Prize. Sometimes parents have these specific objectives in mind for their children, right? And I don't want to comment on whether that's good or bad or not, right? It's a separate discussion. But many times you and I think we have a certain goal or a certain purpose in our lives, and our whole focus in our lives is just to achieve that goal. So from every single level of grade school through college, everything we do is to reach that final goal, right? That purpose that we believe is our purpose, that Allah has sent me down just for this, and now I have to go and achieve it. Imagine Hazrat Abbas is being told from birth that your job is to fight for and protect Imam Hussein. That's it. Now, this is where you can really see the wafa and the loyalty, the obedience to the wilayat of the Ahlul Bayt, to Imam Hussein, that Abbas had. In Karbala, on that battlefield, as the army is he's looking at the army at the other side. He's been trained from birth with all these skills of the battlefield, right? He is the greatest warrior, without a doubt, on the battlefield. Now he comes to his Mawla Hussein and says, let me go out and fight. In other words, let me do what I've been trained to do. Let me do what I was created to do. From nature and nurture. My nature, my tribe is meant to fight. My nurturing by my mother was to protect you and defend your honor. Nature and nurture put together, this is what I was built for. This is what I was created for. My whole wujud is for this. Let me go out and fight. Give me ijazat. You see, he could have easily gone out on his own and fought. He could have easily wiped out the army if he wanted to. But no, he comes to his Mawla. He comes to Hussein and says, no, I ask for your permission. And what does Imam Hussein say? He says, no, I don't give you permission. Over and over again. He comes to Imam Hussein and says, no, you are the alamdar. You are the commander, the amir of our soldiers, of this army. I can't let you go out. Over and over again, Abbas comes, asks for permission, and it's rejected and denied. Any other person would say, look, this is what I'm built for. How could you deny me of this? But for Abbas, he says, no. The one thing that defines my purpose is not how I was raised. It's not what skill sets I think I have. It's not what might gain me dunyawi, materialistic, worldly success. He says, whatever my purpose is going to be defined and told to me by my imam, the imam of my time, who is Hussein. So when Hussein tells Abbas, you can't go out, he says, I put my sword down and I put my spear down. Can you imagine what sort of struggle against a person's ego, against themselves, this would take? I'm saying, put yourself in this position that you have been training your whole life for one goal and one purpose. And finally, just as you're about to fulfill that goal, somebody who has more authority than you, right? Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it's an alim or a marja or anybody who has that, spiritual authority over you. They come and tell you, no, you have to go against your nafs. You have to go against your ego. What you thought was your purpose is actually not your purpose. This is a true test of the ego. And this is where we see, because Baneen was successful in the destruction and annihilation of her ego, Abbas sees this and he's able to destroy his ego in Karbala as well. And says, fine, I will not go. My purpose is for Mawla Hussein. That's it. And when Imam Hussein finally says, yes, I'll let you go out. You can go and attempt to get water for the children, but I don't want you going out with your sword. If you want to go out with the blunt end of your spear, you can do that, right? According to some narrations. And that's what he went out with, not with this sword. The one thing that would have easily led to their victory, Imam Hussein orders him that, no, you can't go out with your sword. This is how you see Baneen's tarbiyah of destruction of the ego and of the self, of the ana, of the I, passes down to Hazrat Abbas, and he manifests that in Karbala as well. Salawat ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. So we talked about Baneen rejecting her own name Fatima as a way of destroying and lowering her ego. We talked about how she was able to inculcate and train Abbas in that same manner. And Abbas does not fulfill what he believed his purpose to be of defending and fighting and being a warrior. Instead, he fights his ego and only obeys the commands of his imam. So these were the two phases of before Karbala, during Karbala. And now finally, we end and we jump to the post-Karbala phase. and the final example of where we see the destruction and annihilation of the ego of Ummul Baneen. After the caravan had left Karbala, had spent time in Sham, and had finally been released, the caravan, of course, made their way to Karbala. According to narrations, they performed that first ziyarah, right, the ziyarah of Arba'in, and then they make their way back to Medina. Ummul Baneen, remember, had sent her, according to narrations, all of her children. All 4 of her sons were all gone. All of them become shaheed. Can you imagine, right? And of course, we know Marhuma had a big family as well. Can you imagine somebody losing all of their children like this? Can you imagine for a mother or for a father how heartbreaking it must be? And what sort of tears they want to shed and how they want to mourn the loss of their child. And that's something that no parent ever wants to go through. Even if their child is of an older age, no parent ever wants to see their own child pass away before them. We all expect that certain kind of linear, normalized way of passing away, that, maybe the father goes first and then the mother goes, and then in age sequential order, children should go. But you see, Karbala is not like that. Karbala is an example of this mass death and shahadat of these children, and all these mothers losing their children. And of course, Baneen loses 4 sons. So when the caravan returns to Medina, when news is brought to her and people are giving their tasliyat, and they're giving condolences to Baneen, they're saying, all 4 of your children had given their lives and they lost. So we're giving you condolences for the loss of your children, the loss of Ja'far, the loss of Abdullah, the loss of Uthman, and the loss of Abbas. Of course, Baneen, as any mother would want to, should begin crying right away and maybe ask about how her children passed away. But you see, even in gham, even in this bala and musiba, her own bala and own musiba, her own gham is secondary. And immediately when people mention to her sons, he says, do not mention anything about my children. Tell me about my Hussein. What happened to my Hussein? Tell me about my Mawla Hussein. Her own children are secondary compared to her Imam. And when she hears about what took place to Imam Hussein, then that's when she begins shedding tears. Not for the loss of her children, but for the loss of her Mawla, the loss of her Imam. That's where she begins crying. And she recites, all these different lines of poetry. And in her poetry, basically, her poetry is talking about how she wishes that she was able and her sons were able to defend, give their lives so that Imam Hussein could still be alive. This is her only concern. She's not saying, I wish my sons were still alive. I wish there was some way they could have won the battle. No, she says, I wish there was some way my children would leave and they would give their lives so Hussein would still be alive. This is the final way she's able to show complete destruction and annihilation, fana of her ego, of her nafs, for the sake of the Ahlul Bayt. Even when it comes to the gham and that heartache that a mother would feel, the heartache and the pain for her Mawla and for her Imam trumps everything else. And this is something that us, lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we try our best to also practice as well. And of course, it's common that when we have these majalis, whether it's a Jailun Majlis or a Soya Majlis or an Esaal Sawab Majlis, it's our tradition that, yes, we do sometimes mention the characteristics and traits and faza'il of the marhum or marhuma whom we are sending the sawab for, right? Like marhuma, Saltanat Begum bint Murtaza Hussain. And of course, all the faza'il had been mentioned about her. But we as lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, following in the footsteps of this beloved marhuma of ours, we see that she would be pleased in the fact that we want to mention the qualities and the traits of Baneen over her own qualities and traits. And this is why I think it's so interesting that both their personalities, coincide. And it's very clear from the words that were shared and the stories and the sentiments that were shared by all of the other family members about Marhuma, that she does seem like a very direct spiritual descendant of Baneen. and the way that she was able to raise her children, and the way that that had an effect on her grandchildren and even her great-grandchildren. But of course, we say there is no gham sawai gham Hussein. And even though when we lose our loved ones, it is tough for us. When we compare it to the bala, the musibah and masa'ib of the Ahlul Bayt, there is no comparison. And when we think about how marhuma, she had the blessings and the children had the blessings to all be around this beloved marhuma in her final moments. They were all able to, as we've heard, they were able to be with her in those final moments. And anybody who's ever lost a parent or a grandparent knows, as tough as a loss of a loved one is, of a parent or a grandparent, it's a very tough thing. But being able to be around that individual in their final moments does bring some sort of peace, tranquility, some sukoon and solace to your heart, doesn't it? So when we think about this, sometimes our hearts feel a bit at ease. But then we think of the gham and the musibah of the Ahlul Bayt. And we say that Baneen does not have this blessing and benefit. Any mother would have loved to have been around her children in their last moments. But Baneen is not even there in Karbala. She's there in Medina waiting to hear news about what happened to her beloved children. And all she can do is express her grief and her sorrow for the loss of Hussein. And finally, she says, if only my Abbas had a saif and a shamshir in his hand, then none of this would have taken place. And we think about the other women of the Ahlul Bayt, all who were witnesses on that battlefield, all of them who had to watch all of their children go out. We see Layla watching her son go out. We see Zainab watching her children go out. We see Farwa watching her child go out. All these women, all these mothers, one by one, they see their children go out, and these children lose their lives in the battlefield. And as they do, instead of these children calling for their mothers or for their fathers, when they want to send their final salams, they send their final salams to their Mawla Hussein, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah adirikni. And their final moments, their attachment is to their Imam of their time. This is how we destroy our egos. Everything, every part of our fiber, of our being is for our Imam. Even in our final moments, when we want to leave this world and depart this world, the last face we want to see is of our Mawla. على لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. Ya Allah, we ask you by the haqq of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad to forgive all mu'mineen, mu'minat, all of our marhumeen, marhumat. Especially, we ask you to send the sawab of this majlis, of the poetry that was recited, of all that has been done in the name of marhuma Saltanat Begum bint Murtaza Hussain, to send the sawab to her, to forgive whatever shortcomings she may have had in her life. We ask Allah also by the right of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, by their haqq, that you help us learn from the lessons of the life of Baneen in the fact that she was able to destroy her ego throughout her life, and she passed this down onto her children. We ask Allah that we have that same ability. We learn from her that we as parents are able to destroy our egos, to show our children how to destroy their egos, and we act in every step of our life more egoless, putting the needs of others before our own, putting the happiness of others before our own, and making sure that the gham of Ahlul Bayt, the musibah of Ahlul Bayt, also comes before our own as well. And we ask you by the right of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad to bless all the families who have put this majlis together. May Allah give us the tawfiq to give a good name and a good legacy to our beloved marhuma. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahl Baytihi Tayyibin Tahirin. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Thank you, Maulana. That was, we appreciate your majalis and your kind words and your du'as. We're going to end this program, inshallah, with the Noha. And after the Noha, we ask everyone to please, if you have the moment, to recite Surat al-Wahshat for Saltanat Begum bint Murtaza Hussain. And if you can also recite some Quran for her. And now Ali Abbas Muhammad will recite Noha.
Yo, so پہنچے سرحان بھائی کے جب شاہ کربلا غازی نے اپنی آخری سانسوں میں دی صدا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا شرمندہ سکینہ سے ہوں بہت میں پانی لے کر آ نہ سکا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا ماں نے جو سکھائے بچپن میں وہ یاد ہے سب آداب مجھے اور نزدیک کھڑے رہنا اس جا شبیر جہاں بیٹھے جا کے اس وقت مگر خادم تیرا تعظیم کو تیری اٹھ نہ سکا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا ہر لاش پہ گر کے کہتے تھے کیا تم ہی علی کے بیٹے ہو کہ معلوم ہے کتنی مشکل میں خیموں سے یہاں تک پہنچے ہو کہ عباس سے ملنے کی خاطر زحمت جو اٹھائی ہے مولا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا یہ سوچ کے رن میں روتی ہے بازو سے لپٹ کر میری وفا کہ یہ بات گراں گزرے گی بہت اماں کی طبیعت پر آقا گر ہاتھ ہوئے پانی سے میرے اور آپ کا غر پیاسا رہا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا دو بھائی بچھڑتے تھے رن میں کیسا تھا قیامت کا منظر کہ عباس مجھے بھائی کہہ دو سرور نے کہا جب یہ رو کر اور شبیر کو بھائی کہہ تو دیا لیکن تھی تکلم لب پہ صدا مولا معمول بنین سے مت کہنا یا حسین.
Yes. Jazakallah. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of everyone in the Ali Abdi family, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight and for your duas, and wish you all a good night. Assalamu alaikum.